Well, good morning to everybody. Um, I hope everybody's having a blessed morning, and welcome each of you as you jump in and join us today for the unbroken study of Revelation. And we're advancing right along. We're going into Revelation chapter 2 and verse 3 today. And so I'm looking forward to see where God leads this as we kind of go on this journey together. Um, So I pray that wherever you happen to be, that maybe it's a little bit warmer than it is here. Good morning, Jody. So um, this morning we've got snow falling, and I guess it's warmed up to 25 degrees. And inside the hillbilly abode here, since I don't have any heat inside yet, it's 32 degrees. So hey, we're 7 degrees warmer inside, so that's a good thing. Um, But don't feel bad for me because we got a fifth wheel trailer that's right here that I I got it running about 70 inside there. So, but I don't have a good space to do the study in there. So this is how we do it. Um, so I just can't help but think that it becomes more and more important for us to remember exactly who sustains us so that we don't ever grow weary with whatever our circumstance is. And I love this positive part of this message to Ephesus. Um, uh, Dale, I'm a heretic, so most religious organizations are fresh out of hiring heretics right now. So no job for me yet. Hey, my wife is tuned in. Look at that. Um, so And Vern, I'm looking for some harassment, brother. I'm glad you're on this morning. So I love all you guys and look forward to going on this journey. So I know the hat's goofy. I'm not trying to be Daniel Boone or nothing like that. It just keeps my, balding head a little bit warmer. So there's a point in time the vanity's gone. It don't matter what you look like. Um, and my brother Eric's on this morning. It's all good, brother. It's all good. So anyway, let's jump right in here. Revelation chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, "You have patiently suffered for me without quitting." And some of your translations will say, "You've carried on without growing weary." Um, Now, if you look at it in some ways, it's saying that in spite of being weary, you carry on. Um, because the idea of being tired is real. Jesus got tired. The apostles got tired. We can see the prophets of old, they got tired. But tired was not something that kept them from carrying forward with what God had laid upon them. And so I know what tired is. I experience tired. Um, but when many times there's a zeal that is more powerful than that. So let me give you like an example on this. So right now, as if you watch the weather, there's this warm weather from the Gulf, and there's cold Arctic air coming from the north and west, and the battle is between those two. Depending on where that line is, you either get freezing rain or you get snow. Or if you go a little bit further, if I was to drive like 4 or 5 hours south of here, it's in the 70s. So my point in that is there's always these things in our life that are trying to pull us one way or another. And when the Bible talks about our flesh is pretty mighty in pulling us to satisfy it. It screams pretty loud. But there's also this amazing thing that, and you know it when you know it, inside of you, this incredible call of God inside that compels you in spite of all the other things. And so we can see that all through the scriptures. Why did they do the things they did? Why did they carry on when things were rough? Why did they keep moving forward? And I actually pray for the modern church to have trials. And I think it's about, maybe my prayers are being answered because I think the trials are about to come. I can't think of a better thing than for Christians to have to go through soul searching, oh my word, either I'm with God or I don't know, I'm gonna be without any support at all except for crazy humans, and they're not really all that supportive. And I just can't think of a better thing to bring about reliance upon God and bringing the church back to steadfastness than having to go through, we don't have the ability to take care of ourselves. When we reach that point, um, it's it's life altering. And there's a lot of people in the world that have already reached that point. And what I'm saying is that because the scripture tells us, why don't we choose that while things are good? Why don't we choose that rather than waiting till something negative compels us to go, oh, wait, yeah, like we've heard our whole life, like, well, boy, we've tried everything. All we have left is prayer. Like as though that's the last resort. Right now, so often in Christianity, God is the afterthought, the powerful board meeting, and the members that have the lofty positions, and they make these decisions that roll out, and well, we check the bank account, and it's really good, and we're going to move forward in this, and that reliance on human wisdom and self. I see in this message to Ephesus, it says that they patiently suffered, um, and they didn't quit. So to be patient and not quit, those two things are amazing. So if we go back and we look at the love chapter, we're not going to go there right now. You can go back and read it. I know you've probably read it a long time. So if you go back and you look at what is the first element that is stated about what love is, it says love is patient. And so um, the best love that doesn't harm us is when we focus on loving others, when we're outward focused. When Jesus said, um, uh, these are what these commandments, all of the commandments hang on these two things: love God and love others. There's nothing in those two commandments that says love yourself. I can't find in the Bible where it says to focus on loving yourself. Now, you see, when I know that God has loved me, does love me, and will always love me, I don't have to worry about who's loving me. I don't have to worry about loving myself. Now, since I know that I'm created by God, I shouldn't defame myself. I shouldn't talk poorly about myself. I shouldn't put myself down. But one of the things that I've seen that's so detrimental is that there's this lie that, well, you can't love others unless you love yourself. And I believe that self-focus is at the root of so many of our emotional and mental issues that we have in the world around us. And so when I know God's got my back, I know He's loving me. I know He will continue to love me. I know He has my back. I know anything that He compels me to do, I don't have to worry about the whats and the wheres and the whys or any of that stuff, which has been so famous. Everybody's got on this thing, well, you need to know the why if you're going to do ministry. All that stuff, it's just human mumbo jumbo, yada, yada, yada. It's a fad. It moves on. It sells some books. People go to conferences. They go for 3 whole days. They sit in meetings while people say the same 3 things over and over, and they go, well, I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to speak into that space. And we have these key words like lean into it. I'm going to lean into that. And we do these weird things. Like, just walk with Jesus. Just know that He is obsessed with you so much that he gave his life for you. And and I don't need to be leaning into any human anything. I don't need a philosophy that comes from a bunch of people. I need relationship with Jesus. His life is flowing through me. His breath is the reason why I'm speaking right now. And so we keep following these weird traditions and these fads and all this stuff. And we get these little code words and sayings. And God's over here going, "What are you doing? I got your back. I got your front. I got you flanked on both sides. I got you. You're standing on me. I'm the rock, and I got the whole heavens above you that I have to protect you. I got you. We're good." And so I can't be patient if I'm following a human system, because that human system is coming from somebody's flesh, and at the root of it, if you follow it back, somebody wanted to sell a book. Somebody wanted to make a name for themselves. And if you go back and you understand the biblical picture of the tower that needed to be destroyed by the confusion, so it could never really come into its being, that its construction needed to be ended. The beginning of that was, let us make a name for ourselves. And so we see the root of all this coming down through religious circles, and so I love that John is conveying what Jesus is speaking to this church of Ephesus. He's like, look, you following me is causing you some trouble. You're gonna have trouble. And Jesus himself said that, don't worry if they hate you, they hated me first. And that hate and that trouble will come from very interesting places. It'll come from your own family, your brother, your sister, your kids, your parents, your grandparents, your what are supposed to be your friends. It'll come from the members of your church. It'll come from all kinds of places. The enemy of you doesn't need to do that. They're not worried about all that. It's those that are looking from the outside and are jealous because you have this confident relationship with God. That's when people get upset with you. Is that the more unshakable you become, the more frustrated those trying to shake you are. And so the way that we stay focused on this and continue forward no matter what comes is to remember that we have the ability to come boldly before the throne all the time. We have the Holy Spirit on board. Like we got our guide right here, and we're infused, the ultimate infusion. We're infused with the Spirit of God himself. And we have Jesus Christ as an example and the principles that he lived out. So our decision making is easy too, because all we have to do is filter our decisions through the principles of Christ. I don't have to worry about what I want or don't want. I don't have to worry about what someone else thinks. All I have to do is take the principles of Jesus, make my decisions filtered by those, and carry on. And whatever somebody thinks about that, that's not my problem. Yeah, they may try to make it my problem, but if I allow them to make it my problem, now I'm following their opinion, and now I'm following their negativity rather than following Jesus. You understand that? So the moment I get knocked off my course because somebody's being negative, they're now my God. That negative person is now God to me. That should sober me. And so every time I see that happen in my own life, I have to step back and go, wow, I have given somebody influenced by the enemy a bunch of power over my experience. I'm going to go step right back over here, and I'm going to carry on in my experience, my real living relationship with God. Not something I speak of, not a philosophy, not something someone else said, but the real living God. And and I have to know that um, everything that he speaks to me has an amazingly good purpose. And right now, everyone is screaming from different directions, trying to get you to focus on their human thing, whatever that may be. And I guarantee you, there's a selfish, evil agenda behind everything that fights for your focus that is not flowing from the throne of grace, the throne of God, from the good Father, from the Creator, from your Messiah, and from the Spirit of God that He gave us to dwell inside of us. And so I share that with you to encourage you because I believe this message to Ephesus is an encouragement. It's not an indictment. Next week we're going to get into where he says, I have this complaint against you. His whole complaint there is that, well, maybe because you're going through problems, you don't love me quite like you used to. And we'll have a lot of fun with that next week. But right now, bask in this. Be patient. Now, look, commanding somebody to be patient is going to make them want to do the opposite. Anytime you like, so I say calm down, that's the last thing you feel like doing is calming down. I get it, and yet we do that to each other, especially when we're in close relationship. We do that. We command each other to do this or that, and it just makes it worse because that's not how we're made. But when we have this loving Creator, and in order for us to see him loving, we have to come to understand that he wants what's good for us. And sometimes being uncomfortable is the best thing for me. Being uncomfortable is not punishment. Being uncomfortable sometimes is where the sky's clear and my blinders come off and all of a sudden I get it. Sometimes when we're comfortable, we're in a stoic gaze, half asleep, maybe fully asleep. We're not really aware of what's going on, and then everything just seems like a dream, and we don't even know what's right and what isn't, and what's real and what isn't. But I can tell you that when you're uncomfortable, there's an acuteness of understanding what's going on. So I love this encouragement. I want to take you to the book of Galatians. And I know you guys know I very much appreciate the Apostle Paul. There's a lot of Christians that don't like him. He was kind of to the point, and he was bold. Some say he was obnoxious and over the top, and he hurt people's feelings. I don't believe that he had any intention of hurting feelings. He just was willing to speak what he believed to be true at whatever expense. And he wasn't going to be, let's say, slowed down, impeded, or cut off from what God laid on his heart. So here, let's start here. Let's look at Galatians chapter 6, and let's look at start in verse 8 here. It says, those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. It's kind of funny. Growing up, my experience in the church is, a secondary topic was, spiritual things. But in much of Christianity, there's also a fear of spiritual things. So I was recently a guest speaker on somebody else's program, and there was Q&A afterwards, and I had shared some things about listening to God and walking boldly in God. And one of the questions that came in, which is a usual question, and that is that, well, then how do you know if what you're hearing is the Spirit of God versus the devil? And that question actually proves my point, because if we're walking with God, we know Him, and God and the devil are not alike at all. Right? They're just not alike. Now I understand that the heavenly angels were deceived by Lucifer, and Adam and Eve walked with God and they got deceived too. But they got deceived when they began to think things were not fair. And those of you that have known me for a while will know one of the things that I'm passionate about, and that is that anytime we entertain a thought that something is not fair, evil is hunting us. The moment we think that's not fair, we are in trouble. Because every other kind of evil thing, every kind of sin, whatever, will follow in suit. Because when I start thinking, especially about myself, well, that's not fair, now it's poor me, now it's all about me, now it's about what I want, what I desire, and why didn't I get what someone else got? And why did I get slighted? And all of a sudden, I'm back focused and ruled by my sin nature, with my broken chooser. And so this is how perfect beings, without sin, they were convinced that something wasn't fair, that somehow God was not just, and that God was holding out. So if you want to know the difference, look at what the motive behind it is. And so the difference between my thoughts and God's thoughts, I know that clearly because my thoughts suck. God's thoughts are holy and good, and they're for the betterment of others, and in so doing they better me. And if we get truly introspective with ourselves and we go, okay, what was that thought actually? Was that for me, or was that for service to my King, to my Creator? And when I serve my Creator and my King because He loves me and I love Him, then that is that I also then serve everybody and everything that He loves. So now I respect everything that Creator made, everything that He gave, everything that He is doing becomes the focal point. Now, I have the thoughts cross my mind. Poor me, it's not fair. I think we all do. That's part of our fallen nature. That's part of our broken chooser. What do we do when we think it's not fair? What do we do when we go, well, why does this always happen to me? And then we universalize it and we go, somehow I was cursed and condemned, and I just got a raw deal, and I'm just going to go eat worms. Or I'm just going to go do this. Look, none of us chose what continent we were born on. We didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose the color of our skin. We didn't choose virtually any of it. One day we come aware and we go, wait, here I am, I'm alive, I have this fleshly body, and how did that all happen? And we come to terms with the fact that our Creator created us, but He didn't give us the broken chooser. That came through it's not fair being perpetrated by a powerful being in heaven. And so we're not, as my friend Reed here is saying, we're not victims, we're overcomers. And in fact, Paul says that we're more than conquerors. Like, we're not just barely conquerors. And so my point is that in ministry, we will often be faced with this it's not fair thing. Like, why do I always have to do all the work and everyone else just stays home and sleeps? Well, maybe a different way of looking at that in ministry, saying, you know what? They're really missing out. They're sleeping. Look, I get to be in the front line. I get to be in the mix here, man. I'm right in the amazing presence of God. Yeehaw. I wish they weren't asleep, and thinking that they're enjoying themselves because this is a lot more fun. And I know those of you that operate in ministry out there on the front, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's energizing, it's amazing, it's good. It when you're weary, it actually comes and lifts you. You can go to ministry tired and be fulfilled, or you'll be tired and a good tired, kind of like a workout. You know, when you're working out, trying to become a little more strong and healthy. Same thing with spiritual things. And so Paul's going, look, um, I don't see how I can live to satisfy my own nature and be useful in doing the will of God. I don't see how those two things are compatible. That doesn't mean that we're perfect. That doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect. Let's not go down that rabbit trail because a lot of people do. They're like, oh, wow, look at me. I've become perfect, whatever. Now, I only know two that seem to claim that a little bit, and they're probably tuned in right now, but, that all they get is a T-shirt. They don't get any credit for it. So, um, anyway, so let's go on here. After he says that if we're going to please the Spirit, we get a harvest of a life from the Spirit, everlasting life from the Spirit. Verse 9 here, we're in Galatians 6, in light of what's going on here in Revelation 2, verse 3. It says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Now, I know there's people that need to hear that. Because there's times when you're out there trying to follow God, you're trying to do the will of God, where it looks like there is going to be nothing. There's a wall. Like it looks like there's no resources. It looks like the people have abandoned you. But I want to tell you, like Gideon's army and like the ministry of Jesus and like Paul, as he said, as we look over and over and over, we look at Elijah up on the mountain. Lord, I'm the only one left. This is a normal thing. This is an absolute normal thing that you're going to run into. If you don't run into it, you're probably not doing ministry. Because the enemy only has a few tools in his tool bag, and it's not fair is his favorite. And so you go, it's not fair, Lord. I'm the only one that's fighting the battle. I'm the only one that's out here on the front for you. I'm the only one. When we get those thoughts, why am I the one that's always folding the clothes, and why am I the one that's always getting the phone call at 2 a.m.? Why am I the and we'll just get spiritual brain rot, and our hearts will get hard. That is normal in ministry, to come up to a Red Sea with the enemy right on your tail. And what I have found is every single time when the Red Sea's on one side and Pharaoh and his armies on the other, God's about ready to do something amazing. Now you can go back into slavery and get your leeks and onions and satisfy your flesh. But you see, Paul says that satisfying our flesh is slavery. So I can go back to Pharaoh. We can hang out for another 400 years. Building ziggurats for their pagan worship if we want. Or we can say, God, you didn't lead me here without purpose. And I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know if you're going to split a sea open. I don't know if you're going to move a mountain. I don't know if you're going to transport us without either one, like you did Philip. That's kind of cool, a quantum travel. I don't know what you're going to do, but it's not really my problem because I didn't lead me here, you led me here. Now, if I led myself there, that's where the problem is. Now I'm in a predicament. This is why I say that board meetings and the putting our little wise caps on and this and that and checking the bank account is absolute foolishness. It don't matter what a group of people, I don't care how smart they are, I don't care what status they have or what kind of titles and letters they have. I don't care who voted them into what. That don't have that doesn't compare anything to an infinite God when he speaks and he goes, here's the deal. This is what I want. And my response is either hold the door, that's different than what these people are saying. So I'm going to go with what the people say because that thought might not be God. It's probably something else. All the while, everything that those people voted were self-promoting. We need to get more people in the church so we can report better numbers. We need more income. We need to, we need to show that we're successful. Maybe we need a bigger building or go to another one because look at our great success and blah, 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 blah. Some of the greatest success in the Bible was shrinkage. We need to let that sink in. This is not a corporation. This isn't the stock market. This isn't trying to brag about an economic, genius idea. This is about following God. And sometimes God says, look, come with me. I'm going to take you through the valley of the shadow of death. And the church is over here going, well, the board voted, we're not doing the shadow of death thing. No, we're going to go over here. We're going to sit on the Mediterranean. We're going to have some mimosas. And we're going to have some people fanning us. And we're going to just sit there and just bask in how good God is as we relax in our chair on the sand. And guess what? If we invite other people to our resort and they also get to sit in the sand and they also get free drinks and they get all these things and it's wonderful and it's warm and the water's beautiful and perfect and all of that, people are going to want to come. In other words, if the music is good, if the preacher says what you want him to say, if he has the right tone of voice, if you know all the cliches, if you dress the right way, all those kinds of things, then maybe people will want to be a part of that particular club. Well, when was the last time a church board voted to go through the valley of the shadow of death? When was the last time a church board said, I know there's going to be persecution, I'm going to vote for that? We vote for comfort. We don't vote for going through trials. So when you wonder about hearing the voice of God versus hearing your own voice, check the motive. Paul speaks a lot about it. And so the reality is that if you're going to enter into a spiritual ministry, there's an enemy that hates God and has always hated God. And when you do what God asks, he also hates you. And that means that you're going to have some things to deal with. Don't focus on the things that enemy is doing. Focus on the things that God is doing. And so I share that because there's going to be more and more of what I'm talking about coming, I guarantee you. And those who are seeking, a church like Club Med sitting on the Mediterranean with pleasantries, they're not going to even know Jesus when he shows up because all they know is their own desires. All they know is what they want. All they know is what feels a certain way. Yeah, read Gideon. Awesome. I love that story of Gideon. The funniest thing about that story of Gideon is Gideon was afraid. It says he was hiding in the threshing room, and the angel comes and says, "Hey, mighty hero." He calls him this mighty hero, and he's hiding. It's hilarious. The Bible is filled with sarcastic humor, and I love it. Sarcasm is real. And God uses it too. The Bible's full of it. So here's this guy hiding because he's afraid, and he's worried that the enemy's going to steal his food, and the angel of God says, "Hey, mighty hero, I'm going to use you." And then he's like unsure. He goes, "I need to know, is this you or what is going on here?" So he does this little test and finds out that it's God, and then he shrinks his army down to virtually nothing as far as armies go. Paul is so incredibly deep in this. So here he says, don't get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. That blessing isn't to feed my flesh. My flesh is part of the enemy, it's part of the problem. The blessing isn't that. One of the best blessings is to just sit there with a group of people that you're ministering with and just go, man, did you see what God did? And you just bask in the power of what he did and that you got a front row seat to it. Maybe he even worked through you a little bit, but it wasn't about you, but you're just basking in the reality of the power of God. There's nothing more satisfying than spending time in gratitude after going through one of these valleys of the shadow of death. And remember in the 23rd Psalm, one of my favorite parts of it is God is so funny as he speaks there. He goes, I prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. Like we're going to sit right here, the enemies circling the table, and we're going to have this amazing meal together. We're going to have fellowship. We're breaking bread together. The enemy, he don't have any power over you, but he's going to be circling the table, saying Jezebel's table's over here. We're going to get into that in Revelation here in a while, that people have been eating at Jezebel's table. That's not great. We're over here at the table of the true bread of life. And Jezebel's over here circling going, ha ha ha, come check this out. I got something better on my table. These are real things. This is spiritual stuff. That's why it challenges us. So Paul again in 1 Corinthians, if you want to go there with me, 1 Corinthians chapter 4. Now I know he's talking to the church of Ephesus and all of that, but look, these are principles we're drawing out of here. What he told the church of Ephesus is very much impactful on my life. I draw principles from that for my own being, for the church today. And so let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 4. And he says sometimes, and we start in verse 10, he goes, if you're going to follow Christ and you're going to be dedicated, you're going to be in relationship with Christ, people will think you're a fool. And that's okay. And people call you ignorant and stupid and a fool or whatever. You just, again, you can't be concerned about what somebody places on you as far as their opinion. They don't even know what they're saying. And even if they do, that don't matter anyway. So 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 10, our dedication to Christ makes us look like fools. But you claim to be so wise in Christ. We are weak, but you are so powerful. You are honored, but we are ridiculed. In other words, he's saying this duality here where when you're true to Christ, these people that are making their own kingdom, these other folks that are promoting themselves, they're honored. And you watch that in the world today. People go and tell you they're a big deal, and everyone goes, oh, wow, that guy said he's a big deal. He must be. And then everyone follows him. And we see that so often. But you see somebody that's having hardship and trial, and they keep getting kicked down, and everything they do is contested, and it looks like failure. Everyone leaves them. Oh, look at that poor sucker over there. Nobody likes him. Everyone hates him. And let's just mock that because he's so stupid. He just keeps doing the same thing. He gets the snot kicked out of him, and he goes back for more. What an idiot. That's Paul's life. And so while we see the others that are honored and powerful, and they want to give you credentials, they're trying to entice you with their credentials so you'll get the stamp of approval. And once you receive their stamp of approval, now all of a sudden their opinion of you is manipulation, because now they will try to make you do whatever they want you to do, because if you don't, we're going to take that credential from you. We're going to take that little stamp of approval from you. We're going to take your title from you. We're going to take your livelihood from you. And so now it starts looking a lot more like Satan, even though it claims to be Christian. Paul's making a pretty strong point here. And so if you're ridiculed, whatever. You just turn to Jesus and go, man, God, I don't understand why they're doing that, but you know what do you got next, boss? Like I told you, my cousin calls Jesus his foreman. You check in with the foreman and say, man, they're loud over there, but I need you to help me focus. What do you got for me? Let's get on with it. And so he goes on in verse 11, he goes, even now we go hungry and we're thirsty and we don't have enough clothes to keep warm. We are often beaten and have no home. Now, how do people with no home get treated today? Do you realize how many Christian churches will not let somebody who doesn't have a home into their church? And if they do come, they reject them because they didn't get a chance to wash their clothes. They didn't get a chance to take a shower. They came hungry, and maybe they're asking to see if there's some food. That's pretty normal. And so here's the apostle, and he's saying, there's times we don't have food, we don't have clothes, we don't have a home. Now they're the homeless ones. And this is where the very apostles coming into most Christian churches today would be rejected at the door by the deacons. Don't be surprised if you get rejected at the door also. It's okay. I'll take the favor of God over the rejection of people all day long. And wear it as a badge of honor. It's okay. Don't be prideful about it, but wear it as a badge of honor, going, I guess if I got rejected, maybe that was God's protection, allowing them to reject me so I didn't have to go into that den of wolves. I didn't have to go into that pit of vipers. And I would say that some of the most persecuting that true followers of Christ have ever had have come from those who claim to be religious, that claim to be Christian. If we go back and we read history in the Dark Ages, who burned the so-called heretics? Who burned them at the stake? It was those proclaiming to be Christians. And so I can't emphasize this enough, that the journey of following Christ is not a journey of seeking comfort. It's a journey of just God saying, turn right, and I turn right. God saying, turn left, and I turn left. God saying, go knock on that door three houses down. Just do it. Don't ask questions about it. Just do it. And so here in verse 12, it says, we work wearily with our own hands to earn our living. We bless those who curse us, and we are patient with those who abuse us. In other words, if you go and you get rejected, and then it gives you a negative response, they now have taken some control in your life. So don't let them have that control in your life. Receive everything that is good and everything that is right straight from God, or straight from a person that is truly speaking the words that God gave without human filters, without human opinions, without human agendas. Receive everything that's of value directly as you possibly can, straight from God, and you know the difference. If you know God, you know the difference. And don't waste a minute with the negativity on this. Now, I speak fully as a hypocrite with this because I know it's hard not to let this get under your skin. Because that's the point. The enemy wants it to get under your skin. It's like having a bunch of chiggers in your legs where they just scream with itching and scratching until you scratch until the skin's off and you start bleeding and you just want to make it stop. I get it. That's why the term under your skin is there, because when some kind of critter gets under your skin, that's all you can think about. If you let those who are agents of the enemy that claim Christianity to get under your skin, they're in charge of your life. And what I'm saying is that the only one that's worthy of having charge in your life is your Creator, your Savior, your Messiah. And if He wants to speak through another person, that's great. But it needs to come through that person as God gave it to them with no other filter. Period. Yeah, Dale, you might get offended. I know. You're often you wake up in the morning and you just go, man, how could I get offended today? That's what I'm saying. So I love what you're saying, Molly. I'm glad you're on. Hope things are going well with you. Um, Absolutely. I love what you're sharing there on the comments. So let's move on. Verse 13 here in 1 Corinthians 4. It says, we appeal gently when evil things are said about us. Yet we are treated like the world's garbage, like everybody's trash, right up to the present moment. You're just treated like trash. You know what? When you get treated like trash, just never forget that God is the ultimate recycler. He recycles. You know, the worst part is sometimes they'll tell us things that are actually true about us. Like sometimes our flaws are so obvious that they'll just, I mean, it's even worse when we know that's a flaw we have and they mock us with it. That's when it really bites, because then the enemy can start to make you feel guilty. But you're being recycled. You've been retrieved. Jesus came to the trash pile. He came and walked around in the trash and said, man, this is mine. This is my trash pile and I love it. And I'm going to take it with me. I'm going to redeem it and I'm going to turn it into something incredible. So you just know that if they call you a trash pile, that's fine. You're God's trash pile. It don't matter. It just absolutely doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. And so then a boldness comes over you where you're just free. You don't have to worry about what you're going to do or what you're going to say, as long as it's motivated and brought forward by the Spirit of God. Because people's response is not your responsibility. And so when I see people trying to coerce at evangelistic series and trying to manipulate with altar calls and things like that, that's for the pride of the speaker. That's for the pride of whatever church organization or whatever. Wow, look at that. We spent $50,000. We brought this speaker in and woo, we got 14 baptisms. And then 3 weeks later, all those people are gone because they learned that church wasn't very nice to people and they didn't really care about them. They just wanted to get some more giving units. They wanted some more money to come in. My point is that when I read the stories in the Bible, think about Ezekiel. Where Ezekiel, you know what he said? As he's telling about his experience with God? The first 3 chapters of Ezekiel are amazing. God says, hey, Ezekiel, I've got this message for you, and I want you to take it to the people. And by the way, you're going to fail 100%. Nobody will listen to you, not a single one. But you have to give it anyway. So you imagine Ezekiel, you know, he's in let's say a Baptist church or an Adventist church or whatever, and he's this great prophet or evangelist, in the case modernly, often referred to as an evangelist. And so he comes back to report to the administrators of his church organization, and they're like, okay, let's all bring in our reports. And here's Moses. Okay, Moses, give us your report. And he's like, man, I don't know. I never got him across the finish line. I had to go die on the hill. I never made it. And then you get Ezekiel over here, and he goes, wow, I got nothing. Nobody responded. And then you get Jonah over here, and Jonah's pissed. And Jonah's like, dang it, I didn't want anyone to respond, and the whole city changed. What the heck is that? I'm telling you, this is how things are. This is how it works. We don't know the ripple effect that goes out, though. We don't know what becomes of it. Maybe it's the story about nothing happening or people responding poorly that will affect millions later, because they'll look at that and they'll go, wow, Molly or Candy or Reed or somebody went out, they spoke boldly, they thought they were a failure, they died, history recorded it, and now millions are coming to Christ because of their steadfastness, because they would not get weary, because they would not shrink back. That's what the scripture shows us. A couple of weeks ago, we looked at that in Hebrews, where it says that these prophets of old, they spoke things that were not for themselves, but were for those in the future, and they never lived to see the fruit of it. Yet they did it. So in their lifetime, they were mocked, they were ridiculed, they were told they were stupid. They went to their grave never seeing the fruit. Yet they did it. We're blessed because a lot of times we actually see the fruit. If you actually get to see some fruit, you get a front row seat of what God's doing. That's incredible. That's a blessing. When he says this will, at just the right time, you will receive God's blessing. There's no greater blessing than to know that you did what God asked, and then you get to actually see fruit from it. That's better than most of the people in the Bible. So don't get weary. Don't shrink back. Let them say you're stupid. Let them mock you. Whatever. That's them showing their cards. That's showing their master. And you just being peaceful and like he said here, responding gently with evil. Now, gentle doesn't mean a weak. Okay? Gentle can be very strong. I would say that God is very gentle, but there's no one stronger than God. So we misunderstand this, that gentle means that I have to just be, tiptoeing around and, have no power behind it. True gentleness has a lot of power. And so Paul's saying as he's writing this, he's having that same problem. Clear up to the end. We're getting down to the end here. I want to take you to 1 Peter. We got to let Peter chime in on this. 1 Peter chapter 2. Now, 1 Peter chapter 2, he's talking about a lot of different things. If somebody sees you as their slave or whatever, and how you respond to it. I want to jump in verse 19. So verse 19, it says, "For God is pleased when, conscious of his will, you patiently endure unjust treatment." Did you just hear what he said? God is pleased. In other words, he's not pleased that it's happening, but he's pleased that you're enduring it. There's a big difference between those two things. God knows it's not just. He knows it's not right. He understands that. Of course it's not right. Of course it's not fair. And when we entertain this, it's not fair, and it's truly not fair, that's when it's even the most dangerous, because now we can actually show that we're getting a raw deal. And I remember as a child with my sister, we'd get a bag of M&Ms, and we had to sort them out to make sure everyone got the same amount of brown ones and the same amount of red ones and yellow ones, and because it wouldn't be fair, it wouldn't be enough that you just get each of us get 12 M&Ms, but no, we had to each have 3 of each color or whatever. Otherwise, it's not fair. You see, this is hardwired in our nature. It's not fair because that's what it came from. It came from Lucifer. It came from him saying it's not fair in heaven. Eve was like, God's holding out. There's knowledge. I'll know good and evil. Wow, that's not right. It's not fair. I need to be in the know. And so here we are as a result of it's not fair. And so Peter's like, God is pleased that you're enduring the unjust treatment. Now, if I complain about the unjust treatment, is he pleased with complaining about it? If I go to try and make justice happen on my own, is he pleased with that? I'm not so sure about all that. And yet sometimes we get kind of confused on these things. Because over and over the Bible says fight for the justice of those treated unjustly, right? The Bible's clear on that we're supposed to plead the case for the widow and the orphan and for those that are marginalized. It says that. So we'll be agents of God for that, but not our own agenda. See, there's the difference. It's not a religious agenda. It's not a political agenda. It's not so that we can get extra credit or make a name for ourselves. It's because God compelled us to do that. So if that's the case, then when it's happening to me or happening to you, I can let God take care of that. Verse 20, here in 1 Peter chapter 2, of course you get no credit for being patient if you are beaten for doing wrong. But if you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, God is pleased with you. Man, I don't like this. I wish Peter would just stop it. Like, this sucks. Like, so if I do it because I did something wrong, I get punished because I did something wrong. Yeah, whatever. But if I suffer for doing good, then somehow that's when I get God is pleased. I don't like this at all. And yet there it is, and yet something amazing happens to us when we go through this. We remember the most unjustly treated being ever was Christ himself. And when we go through that, we come to understand even more who Jesus is and why it's so good to follow him and why it matters so much. And we have more and more in common with him rather than having something that separates us. Being uncomfortable is one of the best teachers there is. So like it's really cold out right now, and it's not really supposed to get above freezing for a couple weeks here. What's that teach me? It teaches me all kinds of things. It teaches me to be reliant on something greater than me, for one. I have to listen intently to my Creator. I have to know what he wants me to do, what he wants me to say, where he wants me to be, what my next step is. He's the one that will guide in everything. So they're saying that, trees are going to fall down, lines are going to be down, we might be without power for weeks and all this stuff, and I'm up on this mountain and whatever, and maybe that's all true. But God is exactly where he should be. Jesus Christ is still making intercession for us without ceasing. The Spirit of God is fully embedded in us. And he doesn't want things that are harmful to us. He wants things that bring us into a place of unity with himself. And what greater way for me to understand my Savior than to experience some of the things that made him uncomfortable? And so that's why Paul says, count it all joy. I know it sounds crazy, but it's real. And so then verse 21, for God called you to do good, even if it means suffering, just as Christ suffered for you. He is your example, and you must follow in his steps. Man, I love it. I hate it, but I love it. Maybe I maybe I hate to love it, but I know it's true. And so anyway, again, that hour went by really fast. One of these days, yes, um, I will probably in the future. I'll let you guys know what I'll do is I'll say goodbye on the first hour and log off and then log back on and we'll go another hour. But my reason for that is because when I try to upload videos to YouTube, they get real weirded out by longer videos. So um, anyway, all right. Well, as usual, keep your pants on and your Bibles open. Live forgiven, live forgiving, and always live serving. Love you guys, and I'm gonna go check on my hillbilly stew I got sitting on the floor back here in the crock pot. It smells really good, so I'm looking. There's no possum in it, just so you know, okay? But there's some other mystery things in it. I don't know, but it looks good. God bless you guys. Love you.